Hello. Let's see, I gotta get my camera looking right. It doesn't look quite right. Let me center this like right. It's not, doesn't want to stay today. Interesting. It was being so nice yesterday, but hey, welcome. This is a new video live stream event. I'm John Skippy Limcool. I need more light, so let's turn this on. There we go. What a difference a little bit of lighting makes to make the mood cheery. Get the microphone a bit closer so I don't sound quite so far away. I can get to right there. Hi, welcome. So, CineFire is out. I've gotten a lot of good feedback. So we'll play with that some. Today, there's a couple other things we want to cover. There's a new thing that our dear friends at Propeller Heads have released. And believe it or not, so currently Reason Suite 11 plugins, as you see right here, I am playing them inside of Logic thanks to Unify, because currently they are only available as a VST3 format plugin. They don't have VST2, which wouldn't help Logic, but they don't have the audio unit version available yet. But one of the cool things with Unify is that it comes in VST3, VST, and audio unit formats, and it can read, one of the first ever to read VST3 audio unit and VST2 as a plugin. Ableton Live can read audio units VST2 and VST3. I've been able to successfully load Reason and play with this plugin inside of Ableton Live, but I thought I would show it here because I could show it with Unify tied together. For those of you, let's see, is there anybody in the room yet? Oh, there's a few people in the room. Hey, you guys, welcome. Good to see you all. Let's see, let's get a little CPU freedom going by canceling that so it's not eating up quite so much processing. So this is pretty cool. It's kind of, I'm very sentimental. I've had Reason since version 1. I actually had, oh my gosh, I was trying to remember, and I had it in my head a couple of days ago. They had what were their plugins that were just drums, and the two bass TB303 parts? You guys remember? Anybody else around back then? What were they called? Redrum, I believe, and that's before Reason. That's like 15, 20 years ago. Oh, Rebirth, right? Rebirth. So I've been around. Thank you. Appreciate that. So when one came out and it had these cool synths, and over time they have introduced some really cool instruments to the Reason family, and it's always pained me because it's one of those things where I can do my two Skippy's Big Bad Beats. A number of those grooves started by grooves that I made inside of Reason, and I really like playing with the Dr. Rex and other synthesizers that were in, and they've added a whole bunch of new ones since then. But it's always been kind of a sad thing because at the same time, I've always not been a big fan of that sequencer. It doesn't have event editing. It's hard to see velocity values for what you played to change without it being just a graphic thing. They keep trying to make it a little bit better, but I think it's a really smart move on their part that when you get Reason Suite 11, they include plugin now of both audio effects as well as the instruments for this, which is the ability to load all of the instruments and all the presets and all the stuff that are part of. Let's see, let me delete these. And I haven't figured out, I haven't had a chance to work with this a whole lot. They need to have some sort of a just a reset, and I haven't found out where you can click up here and say just reset device. see what that would do. They don't have a reset device here. So you just, it's currently I'm just having to delete, there we go, just delete the device. So what you have when you call up Reason is this interface, and they have 9 of the instruments with graphical, and then if you go over here, you can see them listed. By default, the little side panel is closed like this, but you will want to double click here to open this because this is very handy for a number of reasons. reasons. But here's some of their cool instruments. Some of the new ones that they've added a grain sample manipulator, which is rather a cool instrument, cool effects. Biggie's in the house. Andre, good name. Good to see all you guys. Right? So the way that it's interesting. One thing that is really obvious off the cuff is how small the knobs are, and there is no, Unify. I can click right here and I can resize this interface, but the plugins that it hosts are it's up to the plugin to support that. They don't have any size resolution inside of Omnisphere. If you want this to be larger or smaller under utility, you can go to magnify window and you can say 2 times. It says, oh, it's going to be too big to the monitor, but I could say 1.5, or if I needed it to be smaller, I could make this smaller. So I have those options. Most plugins have these types of options. Right now, I wouldn't doubt if they'll do this in the future in some way. It might be really hard for them to do that because you have to realize this is all just vector. It's not even vector. It's just bit graphics. It's just little dots and pixels for all the knobs and everything you're seeing for all of these instruments. I mean, talk about a mountain of work to have as I'm learning and making my own plugin and working through that process. We're using calculated graphics, so that we're not doing things with like bit stuff like that. So that way this can resize and the text can get bigger and do different things, stuff like that. They don't have that ability. So it's unfortunate, but some of these interfaces are really small. They pack a whole lot on here, and you can't zoom it up in size. You can zoom up your monitor. I don't know if I have that. I used to have it turned on. There's accessibility tools on the Mac and on the PC that you can zoom up the resolution of the display. I'm not using those right now. But there's I don't know the exact number. I'm not a walking owner's manual or sales brochure. So that don't look for me for that type of information. But Thor, all of these really cool synthesizers are here. Let's see, show the programmer. And it sounds really nice. If you want to get into the parameters. I've always felt they have a really great, unique, clean, beautiful sound to the instruments that are part of the Reason family. So it's really welcome to me. I'm really excited that these are tools that people can now use in the sequencer of their choice. You could do it before with the rewire and with interlinking of applications, but that's always been a little bit kludgy. Maelstrom is one of these that is one of my favorites just because of the ability to... Oh, I'm on monosynth. I thought I was in motion synth. One of the things that's cool is the samples have these options to do indexing, so it's kind of like wavetables. It might even be wavetables. But you can do shifts to get into sounds outside of your normal spectrum of samples. So you could take even just like flute samples and stuff from inside of this. And let's see if I say reset device. You can go to the tables here. You have all sorts of these different. So it is table based. Okay, so they're calling it tables even. So if you go wind. Right? It's a flute sample, but because of the shifting, that alone is just super cool, right? And there's envelopes per each of these oscillators. Oops. So I could have this one be slow, and I could go down to this one, and I need to turn it on right here. Right? You can do all sorts of cool, unique things because there is enveloping between the two, so. So it's not often you get to sense that do these types of things where you have these types of controls on top of each other with wavetables and shifting like it does. Let's see, low pass filtering. You have to click right here to route each of them into the filter. And there's two filters. There's the ability to send it into clipping. There's a spread amount, but I think you'd have to turn on a unison. Now, if I wanted to add, there's effects inside of here, so I could say add reverb to this. And they're lovely, good effects. Right? We could say they have soft tube bass amp, EQ, they have their mastering EQ, limiter, maximizers. You could put a maximizer on the output. Then distort it. On top of this, the cool thing, they have utilities of like LFOs and so forth. So if I was to say connect this, you have LFOs, and I think you can hit right here to flip to the back so you see where everything is at, and you can cable in the LFO outputs to be sent into all sorts of inputs for pitch and, you know. So you have the ability to get really carried away with Reason in a cool way, because all of these instruments and all these effects and the players to do things, the LFOs as separate things that you can add when you need them, is cool. They have dual arpeggios, note echo, and scale and chords, which are things you can also add. So if we were to, like, I think, go like this. Let's do this. And then they have different presets for the arpeggiator. So if you click right here, it will go into all sorts of... Oops, I don't want that one. So you have a ton of parameters for different parameters and different... The one thing it doesn't have, from what I can tell, I'm not sure exactly how you would get things on different MIDI channels playing from a single instrument, which would be interesting. What's fun with CineFire is each one of these layers, you just choose right here what MIDI channel you want it to be at, and it will respond and listen to MIDI, and so you can build up multi-channel things really easily. I don't know if you can do that here. They have an instrument that's really interesting called Combinator. Let's see if we do the, if I click here and say delete this and delete. I'm sure there's a quick way to get to reset, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to do it this way. But under devices, under utilities, they have a thing called Combinator, which is where you can create pretty complex splits, layers, pads, all sorts of things. Let's see here. I need to get to, normally it shows me I'm in a certain folder and I want to get to the top folder above that. There we go. Song starters, layers. Is this right? Let's see if I go instruments and I add something else to this. Then I go back to here and say, show me these presets. Huh. It's not taking me. That's organizing the view. Well, interesting. It's supposed to show me a whole bunch of different folders of different categories. And I don't see how to. There we go. Okay, took a couple more clicks. So you have all these different types of combinators. Let's delete this. Make sure you, if you haven't played with this device, if you have Reason Suite, it's not clear from here that you have this, but it's, you know, you have pianos, you have mono basses. I showed you a little bit on Maelstrom, Thor, the grain. Dr. Rex is one of my favorite things. I'm going to save that to the end. But click under other, let's see, where's my my water? Go to utilities. Make sure you check this out. This to me should be right here at the very beginning. I don't know why it's not. Because this was one of their big selling points and arguments why this had to be a part of Reason, is that the Combinator allows you to combine all of these different elements and all the tools that you see over here, all the players, the utilities, the effects, and the instruments can all be combined in the Combinator to make, it's really interesting, it keeps wanting to go there. Combinator patches. So you go here, you have anywhere from cool just pads and layers and so forth. You could say pads and just, you click this and it loads up not only patches, but effects. To sound effects, to rhythmic, to pianos and keyboards, gets to be really interesting. Oh, wait, I need to do it another way. So delete that. Just to be safe, I'm going to delete this and say start over. All right. Oh, we should say show devices. So you have all these different types of pianos. Then you get to the more complicated stuff. The, let's see here. Performance patches, where you have layers. Right? So there's a lot of fun stuff here for starting song starter ideas. Whoops. These might be multi-channel things. I am not totally clear. Oh yeah, here we go. So under the programming, you can see the devices, low range, high performance controllers. If I hit, is there a way to hit play and see if it's, yeah. Okay, so it has sequences and all sorts of stuff going on. So the song starters are setups for songs. So you can play with those. Make sure you spend some time in here because this is kind of where everything gets put together. And I'm to be honest, I'm really kind of surprised that it is kind of hidden down here under the third folder tab down under the add other device. To me, Combinator is the coolest thing because it combines everything and it should be here at the very top. But they didn't do that. But you just double click to choose what instrument you want or go down here and make sure you look to see. This is not the exhaustive list. It's more than just 9 plugins. So make sure that you check that out. Let's see. Right. The problem with Reason Rack is there's no MIDI out, rendering the players, etc. almost useless. Yes, I can see where that could be a problem. Something they might fix. I'm not sure. Not sure how to reply to that because it is a problem. Now, one of my favorite things and the reasons I used way back in the day, Reason so much for my drum loop libraries was there's so much you could do with Dr. Octarex. It used to just be called Dr. Rex, and now they made it more complicated because it can now be where you load up a suite of loops and you click right here, and what's cool is you get to where you have parameters. This is a loop player, and between this and the other that I loved so much, Redrum, yeah, these two work really cool in combination when you're making grooves and stuff because they have new ones now. They also have another drum thing called Rhythmic Drum Machine, which does it have patterns? I don't think it has patterns. It's just really cool. I think maybe it's sample based. I thought this would be synthesis based. You can manipulate the samples. As you can see, you can have there is an effect bus. Let's see. Do we see where we get to the delay settings and so forth? I don't see delay settings. Do you guys? Doesn't look like it. Interesting. So you do have this available as well, but let me show you real quickly because we're going to be talking about something similar to this in Omnisphere in a minute, and that's drum loops. Now the difference being, I'm not sure if you guys have seen this in action, but I'll show you this as we go through this. What's fun with this is that these are already prepared, modified drum loops into this format. And what's cool with this is this. This drum loop has actually been chopped up. And there's a program. Do I have it down here? I don't, but Recycle is the program that does this. It is also made by Propeller Heads. So let's see here. This was a library I was looking at from a client. Let me go over here. Get to this folder, to sample libraries, to drum loops. You won't be able to hear these because I don't think I have the audio routed. This is more just to show you the concept of how this works, because let's see if we go to even to the Theo Drum Vault. He's got all these really cool drum loops from all these albums. This is what it does. It loads let's see, hide everything else. It loads a drum loop up, and you turn it on, and you say, oh, this is like, I think this is going to be into like 8 measures maybe. And then there's a sensitivity slider that you can bring up, and as you bring it up, it finds the transients and marks them so that when you spit out and save the file, it actually takes each one of these and makes it its own sample reference so that Recycle can read them. And what's interesting is there's tools, if we shrink this down, where say that this goes to here and stops, they have a thing called stretch. And stretch will actually reverse this and fade it out to make a tail on everything. Again, I don't think you can hear it, but if I was to take this and just for fun, if I was to go save this as the Turtles Chief, and we're save it as a Rex 2 to the desktop, it's not going to play right. The timing's going to be wrong. But at this point, because I did that to that drum loop, I should be able to go over here. And let's see, browse patch. And then if I was to like click and drag here, there, it loaded it up. So it took that drum loop, and now I can slow it down. And you start to hear it fall apart a little bit, right? But I'm taking a drum loop, and just like that, I was able to load it into this program, and I can manipulate the tempo of it. And then I can get really crazy and do things like turn down the filter and go over here and get really close to this darn screen because I can't see it otherwise. And you have the filter envelope. And now that I've got the filter EG, you can hear where there's errors in the Recycle map. I have used Recycle for 20 years. It started out mono. I could tell you nightmare stories. When we did meetings with Eric Persing and Spectrasonics, because I was like ambassador with Ilio, who distributed my libraries, and then Eric with Spectrasonics and a couple other people were there that were part of the whole thing. And we had meetings and came up with a system. They came up with a system that actually could take, you'd render the Recycle map and then apply these points to the left and to the right channels separately, and then a separate programmer would combine it back to stereo. And then you would edit every one of these indexes by hand to get rid of any errors in the audio files. And so we did that and literally edited tens of thousands of samples to make the drum grooves inside of the early groove control libraries that Eric released for Spectrasonics that are now inside of Stylus RMX. And they're also available inside of Stylus RMX on the Ilio side for the libraries I did. So let me show you that real quick, because that's kind of an interesting tie-in to this. By using Recycle, you can take any drum loop, chop it into pieces. You can also import it into Stylus RMX with their Sage converter. It's gotten a little kludgy in how it works, and they haven't updated it in a very long time, which I hope is something that gets looked at. But under the EXP libraries, there's Backbeat. These are the ones that Spectrasonics released, and then here's the ones that Ilio released. And two of them were made by me. One was Big Bad Beats, which has these right? Love these. Haven't played these in a long time, right? But these took so long to edit, to get it so that you could slow down to slow tempos or fast tempos. Now, if you're gonna do something for stylus and you're programming it, there's other ways to do it now. When I did the stuff that's inside of beat breakers, these things were, I did a trick for some of these where I actually recorded these at like 55 beats per minute. So that, like Purple Planet, you could slow this down. Here's 60 beats per minute. And it still sounds really good because it was really slow in the first place. The challenge with Recycle and taking drum loops and chopping them into pieces is that if it's 16th notes and it's 120 beats per minute, you've got very little space to work with. If you slow it down to half that speed, there's a whole big gap of silence. But if you play it and record it slow in the first place, you know, you can get away with doing all sorts of cool things. I also use this technique for those of you that have stylus, and I haven't shown these libraries in a long time, but the OMG drum kits, these are actually the drum kits that are found inside of the OMG libraries for stylus. And what I did is I just played them like this from the sequencer, right? And then I used Recycle to take each one of these and chop them up. So that now when you play on the keyboard, you have drum kits of all sorts of different kits. But you can't use the autoplay features because so if you need new drum kits, there are new drum kits available. They're just made in kind of a weird way. Right? But these are available as another way of getting into you don't have all the cool tricks that we can do inside of beat breakers or break tweaker from Isotope, but the kits are available there as well. So this was using that Recycle program to chop up these loops. Well, that's what this is this is a Recycle player. So you can take any audio drum loops that you have, that you've created or that are part of your, you know, we all have gigabytes of drum loops. If you sit and spend some time, I'll do a video at some point with a tutorial on Recycle because it's a cool program. There's some really cool tricks in there that you can use to get perfect loops without having to spit the samples out. So I'd be happy to show you guys how that works if you're interested. But by using that, see here the gap? But if you play it at like 100 beats per minute, you don't notice the gaps. And then what's fun with this is that with this, you can go over here and you can say, give me another one and have this. I don't think they can play at the same time unless I play them from the sequencer. But you have the ability to get a whole bunch of different things going for grooves. It's one of my favorite things inside of Recycle was part of it, the Dr. Rex. And then also Redrum is great because it's not that many, but it's 10 drum sounds. Let me get back over here too. Right? And there's a bazillion kits of all sorts of styles. There's hardcore kits, there's glitch kits, so you can So if you're into glitchy, if you want dub kits, they've always had just wonderful kits. I've always loved. Oh, come on, brush kit. So really, really usable stuff. So yeah, that's there's so much to play with here. It's using sound system. Yeah, stars. I'd love a bit of it. Okay, we'll do that. Yeah. Skippy is cooking up. I'm just showing. I want you guys just to be aware that these things are available and how they work, and make sure you pay attention to what you can do with them, because a lot of you might not know. One of the cool things with having Octarex here is this is a really cool inroad to get drum loops into your productions in cool ways and to manipulate them. One of the other cool things with this is as you're playing this, let's see if we open this up so you can see the events. If you click right here, you can say select slice by MIDI. And each one of these have all these parameters. So maybe I want this one here. Let's see. Let's have this one be down in pitch. Right? So you can change the elements of the loop pretty easily. And there's all sorts of other things. There's reversing them. Here's filter frequency, so you can have the resonance up. So you can do stuff like that. You choose different outputs for each one if you want to get into multi-bus support. Alternate slice groups, if they have alternate slice groups. Right? So you can do things to these loops more than just playing them back. Once they are inside here, you can manipulate with these synthesizer parameters. You can even do things where you have it playing. Let's say we want this LFO on the filter. Right? And go to effects, put this into the echo. And then go back to effects, put a reverb on it. So you can take these to all sorts of places beyond just playing straight drum samples and drum loops, right? You can combine things, get the envelope involved in the filter, which can get super snappy. And then it's going, all of them are going into the echo and to the reverb. So there's a lot of power here. It's really cool. And it sounds nice. It sounds very nice. So, one thing that was asked was by a customer. Let me find that email. I'll read what was asked. It was a good question, and we're going to look at that today. Let's see here. Where is he at? Kendall the Third, Kendall Cochran. And he wrote, I import tons of sounds I create and or record into Adobe Audition. If I want to embed loops, I use Steinberg Wavelab, stuff like that. I've been experimenting with naming them. We're not going to look too much into that, but here's the part that he has a question with, when it comes to the tempo of drum loops I'm importing, it never seems to match the tempo of the original loop. When you import your drum loops, do you have similar problems, or do you have a trick that you do every time to get it to tempo correctly? Just curious. So we're going to import a couple drum loops into Omnisphere, and they will play at the right tempo as long as we have the settings correct, right? So we will make sure that we have that set correct. And then I'm going to show you how to get them into being into the granular, the trick that we do that kind of, this is the, this simplifies so you don't have to use recycle and you don't have to do this stuff. I will say that using recycle, when you do this and you're working with actual samples, it sounds better than any granular engine, even inside of Contact. There's a difference if you can play the original drum loop and then compare it to they have this time, what do they call it? I can't remember the exact name they use, but they have a tempo lock option capability, but it doesn't sound the same as the original loop. So what we're gonna do, let's do this. I'm going to go over here to drum loops in my folder, and let's get Logic up so we can play these in their original tempos. I'm gonna just randomly pick 3 drum loops, and then we're gonna get them to be loaded. Let's see here. One of them can be from, let's say, from Skippy's Noise Box. So let's say, are these, oh, these are all little pieces, right? Yeah, that's not what I want. Okay, maybe we won't. The Noise Box samples, these are all this actual samples that were edited to make the groove control stuff. I thought I had mixes for some of these. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So we'll load this. This is called output. Oh. Right? This is what I had to edit and chop up into little pieces. You would not believe how long it took to do that. Now, for the purpose of loading this into, I'm going to load this into DSP Quattro real quick and shorten it. It doesn't need to be all of that. If at 80, that's like 8 measures long, right? So we're going to just shorten that to be half of that. And I'm going to make sure that it loops properly. So we'll find the place. You might not be able to hear this, but I'll find it real quick. 1 second. Yeah, it's right there. So we just go boom, delete that. But I want to get this guy, move him over here. And then zoom in on this area here and get rid of that. Zoom like this. Turn on my loop. Yeah. And save as audio file as, we'll save it as a wave to the desktop. Just AP output 8. We'll call it output. So just so you can hear this, if I drag this over here, it's half the size. I can play the two together and it's synced, right? And if I hit L for it to loop, it's looping perfectly. Let's go to an oldie but a goodie library. I love this library. And let's use a totally different tempo, because we're going to see if we can get these all to work together at some point, right? So let's see here. All right, so this is Mo Groove. This is one, let's see, let's do this. Let's go. So I know the tempo of this is 80. This one is 98. So 98 Mo Groove. So if I set this at 98, and let's mute this. So I'm just confirming the tempos here. And that's all there is to it. So I need to edit that, obviously, right? Because I need that to be a loopable loop. So I'm going to go back to DSP Quattro because it's the fastest for doing this. And I can look at this real quick and select all. Right here is where the looping point is. So let's go like that. Oh, I think my little taquita's here. Let's see here. Turn on loop. Okay, so I want to save this as, we'll save it to the desktop, groove, and JL just to the end, so I know I did something to it. It's also 44.1 audio sampling rate. So what I did is this. Let's see, if I drag this now over here, it's the same, but if I hit L, it's looping. And if I play this at the same time as I play, well, that's the full length of output. Let's do the short of output and loop that. Oh wait, no, that's right. It's this one. So I could just cut that in half, and we can get rid of this now because we have the fixed version. So here's output and Mo Groove together. They ain't happening yet, are they? They're two different tempos because it's just playing the native audio files. I want to do this. I want to go smart tempo settings. It always sets these off. I want to say no, don't, no. In fact, I'm going to turn that off. And just to be safe, I'm actually going to delete these and import them one more time because Logic likes to assume that you want to fix these things. And so I'm going to take these and drag them back here. Create new tracks. We should be, I don't know why I can't delete these tracks, but interesting. Okay, so if I select these and loop them, they should be looping. And they're two different tempos, right? So let's find one more just to make this even more of a interesting pot of stew. Let's go to drum loops and find maybe a percussion kind of thing or something that would be fun to put with this. So here's global perk. Are these loops? These sound like hits. Yeah, these are all hits. Okay, we won't use global perk because these are drum hits. What are they doing in my drum loop folder? Okay, here's a djembe groove at 90 beats per minute. So when I put it in here and have it play with all parts, it's a mess, right? It's a bad mess. So let's go over here to DSP Quattro, and one more time, I need to loop this. So the key to starting all this is to loop Right there is where it stops. So I can say just delete this, zoom in, go up here, delete this, and set this whole thing to loop. So we go to commands, turn loop on, and have it. And I need to go save as. When you've edited a couple 150 billion thousand samples like this, you get really kind of smooth at it. It's very easy. So I'm going to take and delete this and instead put this in its place because it's now perfectly looping. So each of these on their own is looping. Oh, I need to go. Here's output. And here's MC Groove. Right? So I'm going to import these 3 files into Omnisphere. And let's see if we can have some fun. So go up here to Omnisphere. We want to go to the way to get this is go to the sample page and open up the sample page. I'm going to actually put these into a folder. So we'll call this the live stream loop, right? Put these into that folder. That way it's not just going to make some weird folder with a weird name. It will actually be a folder named live stream loop. Go to user audio and just click and drag this. It'll take it a little bit of time because I have a lot of samples inside of Omnisphere at the moment. So I'm going to go get a cup of coffee and I'll see you in an hour. Kendall's here. Good. Hey, Skip. Hope all is well with you and the fam. Keep looking right. I learn from what you do. Oh, good, William. Good to see you here. Thank you. Anybody have questions? While we're waiting for Omnisphere to do its thing. Like I said, I have a lot of samples in here, so it's going to take it a little longer than it should. If I had been really smart, I would go through and I would have had some of the sample libraries not included so that we were not using them. Okay, so it did it, I think. Oh, 3 files successfully imported. Here's our happy message. So we can go over here, initialize it. Let's initialize the multi to make sure that I don't have anything going on that is outside of the realm of what I want to be working with. And if I go down here to sample and I go over here to live stream loops, here are the 3 loops. And I can play. And C4 in the middle of the keyboard is where it's playing, right? And if I set this to 80, we should notice that it's, I'm going to turn on the click. It's the right tempo. And it should loop. So that's working nice. Yay. Let's go to 98. And I'm going to call up the Mo Groove. Let me see something. This is one of the things I wanted to check. So 98 solo. Oh, you know what? I think, well, let me see how this works because the tempo is not right. I'm going to use a tool inside of Logic to figure out exactly what the tempo is. If you go up here under tempo and you say adjust tempo using region, length, and locators, you say globally. So it's 89. And that, because I don't know if it's because, I mean, they have the wrong tempo for the file name because it's 98 beats per minute. So now that could be Kindle. That could be part of your problem too, is that it says one tempo, and make sure you load it into your sequencer and check to make sure. Because now when I play it, let's see if I go back to muting this, and I go back up here, and I'm here, and I turn off solo. It's right. And then the djembe was 90, and we should say 90 and choose the djembe. And so we can find the tempo and confirm. I'm not doing anything with names. If you don't do anything with the names, it automatically puts it onto the middle C, C4. My suggestion, if you've got something happening where it's doing something weird with tempo, make sure you're on an initialized patch, or make sure that if you're on a patch that's got settings and you like those, just make sure the chorus, make sure there's no transpose or fine. Make sure there's no octave. That shouldn't do anything because that's an actual note shifting. But you want to make sure that there could be the file name is wrong because of, that one right there was wrong. And I had Logic calculate for me and say, no, it's 89 beats per minute actually. But that's irrelevant. If you have it looping, here's the good news. If you own one of the libraries that is using granular, you could go to any of them, and let's say we go, the other thing is I have presets in here as well, so we could go granular presets. The Super Looper came from Airwave Volume 3 as a starting point. And then I have actually tweaked it, modified it, some from the other ones. But by turning on granular and setting up a couple parameters, you need to first go to the arpeggiator and set it to just one event at 16th notes. This is going to be triggering, right? And then you need to go to granular here. Start at the beginning position is what you want to be on. And then you modulate this with an LFO. And then you go over here and you set the LFO to be this shape, synced, legato, and one measure or two measures. And then I have it on just monopolarity so it doesn't go into the negatives. Right? Now we can go over here, call up this preset. And then you can find the parameters. And I'm at 90 beats per minute, so I think I need to go up here and set this to be a different one measure. There. And you can find the parameters that will let you have, mainly it's the smoothing and the intensity. You can find the parameter that's going to work for the original sample. Now, as you go up and down in pitch, it's going to get funky. But now I can speed this up to 105. If you want to use the non-legacy, it's stronger. But that might be better. It just depends. You can play with these as you want. But what's fun with this, let's copy this part. Let's go to part 2, paste this part, So I'm going to go over here to multi and turn on stack so I can play layers. And for this one here, let's go in and let's have it play. Let's go sharing. Say, where's the live loops? Right here, live stream loops. Let's have it playing output. Now, output loop was a longer loop, more measures. So that means you want to go to the LFO and change this to be 4 or 2. Right? Again, this is not perfect compared to the recycle and the samples being separate samples. This is a form of synthesis to the loops, but it does work. And with fudging, you can get it to sound really good. Or maybe it's just that you want it to be a little bit, off, a little funky because, and then let's go to this last one here and let's have it play sharing live loops, go to and he needs to be a half. I can play the mix. You can then go through and do things, adding effects and compressors, things to get it to be shaped more to the percussion shape you want. But I've got 3 different loops of 3 completely different tempos that are locked. Right? Again, when you play higher and lower, it's playing the sample back faster or slower. So it's not going to fit into the 16 note gaps. But again, there is a tempo to it, and you can use this as a cool sound design effect as well. If we went into if you want to go over here to the amp and make it a short, let's see, am I on part 1 and I hear part 1? I should be able to go over here. Oh, it's probably the release. Oh, I have solo. Silly me. I was doing the opposite of what I needed to do. So this is the djembe sample, right? So if I, let's see, lock and snap this out. Right? It's trying to play it fast, but it's, let's make it 100 beats per minute. So not 10. Come on, John. 100. You hear all these additional things in there. When we get to the drum loops, you'll hear it even more, but check this out. That's the actual tempo. So we could go over here. Let's go add a compressor. And let's just for fun, let's put a little delay on this one. Bring up the resonance. Okay, so let's go to part 2. I'm playing it an octave higher on purpose, so it sounds bad. It's a little off, right? Because I want to show you what you can do to these when you shape them into. Now let's go over here. Let's add a compressor to this as well to get it to stick out. Let's use maybe tape slammer on this one. So we can saturate a little bit. Right? Combine that with the djembe. And then go to the part 3 and let's play with this. when you get it to a certain point where it forces it, and then maybe we could tune it down just to be different on this one, because you just want to pick the note you're going to play for the groove. And maybe this is one where you want it to be halftime, so make it longer. And by making it halftime, it plays it through the scan half at the speed. And what's interesting with this is, check this out. Right? And the arpeggio is going blip, 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 blip. Right? It's going really fast. So it's re-triggering to keep the timing tight, and the LFO is playing slow. So it's really fun what you can do with this stuff. It is another level of, in fact, if we go over here and say 4, let's double the time of all these guys. If you're into weird glitchy rhythm stuff, there's unexplored territory in putting drum loops in Omnisphere and doing unintentionally interesting things with them because of the engine tools that are here. So, yeah, it can get really hairy really fast to where right? I mean, that has nothing whatsoever to do with what we started with, but that's just because of the tools in Omnisphere being used in different... You know? And then if you want to get really sick, you go to part 4, and let's tie it in to CineFire and have something like a... You know, I mean, you can go there. Let's add part 5. And we could add, I mean, where do you want to go, right? That's what's so fun with all this stuff, is that you can go to all these different libraries. Let's go to a phrase, one of these. And you're immediately now in a whole new territory from where we started, just in 15 minutes, right? So it's really fun. And if it's not the right key, there. So it's fun to have all these phrases and then put strings on top of it. What if we had, just for fun, what if we had India? So, good stuff. So it's 3 days left. Sunday night, the introductory price on CineFire stops. So if you want to be able to play with these patches and save money and getting them and stuff, just as a courtesy notice, please buy the library. I would appreciate any purchases that keeps the businesses going and all that kind of stuff. So I hope this fed you guys some ideas of drum loops and how to put them into Omnisphere. Also be aware Recycle is a really cool, if you haven't played with Recycle and you're really into rhythm, I would definitely suggest looking into it. It's at the Propeller Heads website, and it still is one of the coolest programs. There's so much you can do here. I'll do a separate video on Recycle because there's a lot of tools here they've added over time now to where you can do sound design manipulation to the drum loop before you export it. And it will, like some of these things, it actually will put into the sample, will modify the samples, add EQ, transient shapes, envelope shapes, all sorts of things you can do. And there's some other cool tricks that are really amazing. Make sure that you go up and play with this add slices at 16th notes. This is the coolest thing on the planet. You can record a chord and then put it into Recycle, and it will automatically chop it into 16th notes, and you can do all sorts of really cool rhythmic beds and stuff with that. One of my favorite tools and tricks and stuff like that. So yeah, Kindle, I hope this helps, and I hope that okay, yeah, bye, see ya. But yeah, Kindle's the one that asked the question, so hopefully he has the ideas now to how to, again, I think it could have maybe even been the tempo name wasn't right on the drum loop, because that happens with a lot of companies. People don't calculate the tempo correctly. All right, I'm going to leave it right there. It is a nice sunny day, and I have weeding to do in my yard, all sorts of stuff going on. My daughter's birthday is tomorrow. She turns 19. So all sorts of good stuff happening. Happy birthday, Hannah, if you ever see this in the future someday. But thanks. Are there any questions? Let's just, if anyone has a question, now is the moment to ask. Did that help anybody? Did you guys like that? Happy birthday. Thank you, William. That's nice of you. Let's do our shout outs. And if questions pop up, I'll answer them, but we can shout out at the same time. Oh, good. Thanks, Biggie. Good. I'm glad. There's so many tools and different techniques. There's enough toys inside of Omnisphere that it's crazy. You don't need really to go anywhere else if you want to just experiment with stuff. But there's so many other programs and other ways of doing that. Can I use a remote OSC host for UniFi? Yes, absolutely. We will be having that capability for sure. For iPad control and stuff like that, absolutely. CineFire for me in Sherbrooke, Quebec. Thank you, Pierre. Hey, Kajel. Good to see you, man. I hear you're working with some of the libraries on an album. That's great. Great news. You're welcome, Tom. Tom. It's Tom, right? I always get confused. Even though it's a TH, you still say Tom, right? Because I'm going to see Tom York, the artist, part of Radiohead here in a bit. And he also has THOM. And I'm like, it's Thom or Tom? I'm pretty sure it's Tom, even though, okay, it's, yeah. I always look at it and get tricked, so I always fall for it. Cool. Ivar, good to see you. Sunny, MJ up in Germany, Cox in Thailand at 4 a.m? I wish it could be earlier for you. We'll have to do one where it's 4 a.m. for everybody else, but not for you sometime, just to be fair. Because you're always, always have to stay up so late to see these things. But it's so awesome that you're here. Okay, well, thank you all for your support and I hope this gets you guys inspired. There's cool stuff going on, definitely. Also, real quickly, UniFi is about to enter its beta phase. And I've gotten email from a number of you guys that are interested, and we'll be getting to you shortly. You will be in the phase for testing. We're getting a few other things under the hood locked down the way that we want it to be, and then we can get into testing. And early November, I'm hoping for early November, we will have this available. It's going to be what we call the early beta release. You can buy it at a discounted price in November, and that will give us a chance to get people on board and give us feedback. It's not going to be perfect. There are things that will be probably crashing here and there every now and then. Please report those things to us, because we want to make it as solid as we can, and then we will get into even bigger promotion and stuff like that in the future. But I'm really excited with where it's going, and I'm not going to make this into a Unify video, but just to say, if you want to beta test, go through support@pluginguru.com. Just send an email to us saying, I want to be a tester and all that kind of stuff. Hey, B. Miller, good to see you down in Florida. Oh, good. Good. I'm glad everybody's happy. Good. Yeah, I had a good time. That was fun. And it's always fun to hang with you guys. So be well. And I will see you next week. We'll have something will show up. I have no idea what the agenda is at this point, but that's what's fun is as the week goes along, it's like, oh, that's cool. We should talk about that. Oh, that's cool. We should talk about that. So we will see you next week on the next one. All right. Bye.